Hello and welcome to the new episode of the Marketing Meeting. Today we'll be talking about LinkedIn, and I'm very honored to be joined by a LinkedIn expert, John Esprian. John, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for having me, Ita. I'm delighted to be here, and especially talking about my favorite subject, LinkedIn.
Yeah, I know. So, John, you are a web content writer and a LinkedIn consultant. I know that you help B2B companies on their web content, but also you help thousands of individuals with your newsletters, with your posts, and through your special community, Espresso Plus too. So you have your profile is relentlessly helpful LinkedIn nerd, and you really mean that. I'm really glad that we've met. I had like a small research that I did before the show, and I found out some interesting facts about you. Shall I share them?
Okay. Should I be nervous?
No, because you shared them already. I think this is for the audience to start off with. So you used to be a mental arithmetic champion in school. You worked at Microsoft for long years, and you received their MVP award for 4 years straight. Wow, that's an accomplishment, I think. And the last one is no human has ever beaten you at Scrabble. Is that still the case? I know that these first two are facts.
It is true, but I haven't actually played Scrabble for the longest time now. I'm more of a Wordle player online these days. But yeah, all of those things are true. I didn't actually work for Microsoft, but Microsoft awarded me for services to the community, to the online community some years ago. So that's why I got my MVP award. Yeah.
Wow, that's pretty impressive. For Wordle, I'm sure when we meet, I mean, we should do it at the same time, so that I'm sure you're gonna beat me on that. But on Sunday it was very, very hard, and I spent like half an hour to find it because there was it was a hard one on Sunday. Okay, so 3 years ago, I remember an Instagram post of Gary Vee, and he was mentioning that there is an untapped opportunity about LinkedIn, because he says that the platform is still immature. There is not too many people getting engaged on the platform, and he was like, go to LinkedIn and be active. So it was 3 years ago. And even 1 year ago, I remember I had like 1,000 followers, and some of my posts were taking like 10,000 view, 15,000 view, which was, amazing. Fast forward to today, we know that this is not the case. So I mean, the reach is a little bit down. People are getting, interested about LinkedIn, and they started to share content. So for people that are not quite active at the platform, have we lost this opportunity time to grow on LinkedIn? What do you think?
Not completely, but certainly organic visibility is lower than it used to be, but it's still a platform where you can reach lots and lots of people without spending a penny on adverts. And that isn't true on a platform like Facebook, for example. So while Facebook might have more than 2 billion users, right now LinkedIn has a little over 800 million users. There's a lot of people there now creating content. Some estimates are around 5% of LinkedIn users are creating content. That's a lot of people, but there's still a big opportunity to reach people. Maybe it's not as exciting and sexy as a platform like TikTok, which is growing really fast at the moment. But if you want to do business, thought leadership, and especially if you work in B2B, I think it's a great place for building a personal brand and reaching clients who are willing to pay good money for your services as well. I found that people who find me through LinkedIn are willing to pay more than the people who find me through a Google search on my website, for example. So it's still a really valuable place. Maybe not as powerful as it was in terms of reach a couple of years ago, but still well worth investing some time in.
Perfect. So for people that are not here yet and that are not so active yet, so it's not late to start even at this moment.
No. And for those people who haven't really dipped a toe in the water, I think the best place for them to start is to get a really clear headline and then to invest some time in commenting on relevant other topics related to the industry that they're trying to make their name in, because that's a great way of getting people outside your direct network to know who you are. So if you start just by posting stuff on your own timeline, on your own feed, not many people will see that. If you can put those same thoughts into the comments of other people's posts who've already got an audience, that's a really quick and effective way of getting visibility for you, and that helps to build your network.
Is it even the case for people, for example, there's like a person who is posting a comment and I see that there's already like 100 comments and 2,000 likes. Does it even matter for those people that if you post and engage with their content?
If you go to a super popular post like that that's already had a lot of engagement, then the value of your comment will probably be lost in the noise. It's more effective to follow people who have a track record of getting good engagement and being one of the early commenters, because more people will see your contribution. So the effectiveness of your contribution will be higher if you can comment relatively early. So for example, you could follow some strategic people and even hit the bell on their profile for notifications to say so-and-so has just posted. And then if you have something relevant to say, if you can add maybe 2 or 3 paragraphs of really well-researched, well-thought, supportive, interesting commentary, that could get you in front of a lot of people. If you do that 5 days after the post has gone live, when all of the interest in the post has really gone away, you might find some people, but it's not going to be as effective as if you're there right at the beginning.
Okay, this is something interesting that I didn't know. But what about the bell button? Because I put the bell button on for people like you, because I don't want to miss your content and some other people. But I find that it's not working always. Do you face the same?
Yeah, it can be a little bit flaky, and this is characteristic of the way that LinkedIn's technical platform works. Sometimes the features don't work 100%, but yes, the way it's meant to work is that if you follow someone and tap the bell, you should receive a notification every time they post. In practice, some people say that they sometimes don't receive notifications, or they'll receive a notification but a few hours after the post has gone live, which sort of limits the value of doing it. I think part of that is because of how busy your own notifications are, because LinkedIn will not send you all of the possible notifications that they could, because they don't want to overwhelm you. So perhaps if you're having a particularly busy time of your notifications, then some stuff might not appear in there that otherwise normally would. But it's certainly better than nothing. And I've decided to tap the bell only on a few people because my notifications are already quite busy. What I prefer to do is keep bookmarks of the people that I want to keep an eye on. And every so often, I'll just go and check into their profile feeds and see what is new, what is relevant for me to comment on. And I find that that's a more sustainable way of doing it.
You said keeping bookmarks, like on your Google, like Chrome application, or inside the app?
No, inside my browser, inside Google Chrome. So if I go to someone's profile and I tap on activity and then I tap on posts, that shows me a chronological list of everything they've posted. And if I bookmark that page, I can go straight back there without having to go through their profile each time.
Okay.
One thing to note about that is that if you bookmark a lot of those feeds, what you shouldn't do is then go and try and open all of them in one go, because that can look to LinkedIn as though it might be an automated activity, which it isn't. It's you manually viewing lots of profiles. But if you do it through opening a bookmark folder that has 20 profiles in it, LinkedIn might think that it's an automated measure and they don't like things like that. And potentially you could get your account temporarily suspended. So just be careful with it. But if you're just using it to click through one at a time every so often, yeah, it's a good tactic for keeping up to speed with who's doing what and what you can learn from and apply to your own profile.
Quality versus quantity in the frequency of the posts. So some people say that go for quality, quantity doesn't matter so much, but some people say quantity is quite important. So yeah, I know that some people have balanced opinions on that. What's your take on this?
Well, I know a couple of colleagues who have had success from posting consistently multiple times a day, but in general, I would say that because posts last a long time on LinkedIn, that you can probably get away with posting, if you're new, maybe only a couple of times per week, and that would be sufficient. And even if you're more experienced, like someone like me, I post only 5 times per week. And I've been doing that for the past 4 or 5 years. And that has led to success for me. And it's because some posts will continue to get engagement after 2, 3, 4 days. Sometimes it can be a lot longer than that. And if your posts are going to last that long, it doesn't make any sense to post lots of stuff, because LinkedIn will have to make a decision about, should I promote post A or post B? And both of the posts might not perform as well. So leaving some space in between your posts is smart, and it means you've got more time to do other things. So when I advise my clients, I usually say, don't post more than about 5 times a week. It's not necessary. You could use that time instead to leave more comments on people's posts, send people more direct messages, and do other business activities to push yourself forward. Posting constantly is not a good idea in general, and LinkedIn doesn't work the same way as, for example, Twitter or TikTok, where you could post 20 times a day there if you wanted to. That wouldn't be a good strategy on LinkedIn.
So that my next question would be, what's the lifetime of a post? You mentioned that some posts go really for long periods.
Yeah, some of them do. It's hard to say what the typical lifetime is, but for me, usually the engagement on a post tends to go down after between 24 and 36 hours after I've posted something. So that means that posting once a day would probably be a little bit too much for me, and so I've settled on a pattern of 5 per week, and that's what I found has worked. The truth is that your posting cadence, the number of times you post, should suit what you can sustain. So if you start trying to post 3 times a day and then give up after 2 weeks, that's pointless. If you post once per month and then you get really bored of it, well, that's not going to achieve any business results. So you need to find the rhythm that suits you and what you can sustain, because what I say in my book is that success takes a long time. You know, it could take 2 or 3 years to become known for what you want to be known for on a platform like LinkedIn. And so you want to do the things that will mean that you don't quit, because it takes a long time to get to that stage. So find a pattern that suits you and then do your best to stick to it.
Perfect. And thinking about that, when I post, I recognize that some of the posts just die. I mean, although I think that the content is quite good, it dies. It's fades away, and I can see that. And some of them just they take off like in an hour or two.
Yeah.
What are some of the reasons behind that?
Well, it depends on what type of post it is, but you have to think about, for most types of post, only the first 3 lines of the post will be shown, and then people will see an image or a video or a document, let's say, if that's what you've shared. So those first few lines have to compel the reader into wanting to click the see more button so that they get the whole thing. Or those first 3 lines have to be congruent with whatever the image or the video or the document is. And I think if it's not really clear what value people are going to get, they'll just move straight on. So a compelling, interesting, relevant hook line, the first 3 lines, that is powerful, because the more times that people click the see more link, LinkedIn will be able to register how many of those clicks a post receives, and then it can make intelligent decisions off the back of that. If a post receives no see more links, it's probably not going to be that interesting, and so why should they show it to other people? If everyone who sees the post clicks see more, there's obviously something interesting there. And the truth is that most posts fall somewhere between those two stalls. So the more intriguing and relevant and interesting you can make the opening of your post, the more likely it is to get people's attention. Also, what you want is your post should get people to fill in the gaps, get people to comment, get people to answer a question, because that means they spend more time writing a comment or thinking about the post. And the longer someone is looking at the post, again, LinkedIn can measure how long that is. And an interesting post will get more attention than a not very interesting post. So the more time you can get people to spend, the more valuable the post is. And this is why videos and document posts in particular are very valuable, because it takes a while to get through them. So think about how you can keep people watching or reading for longer and get them to spend time commenting as well. You have to remember that LinkedIn can't really judge the quality of the discussion, but if people are writing 2 or 3 paragraph comments versus 1 word comments, there must be something interesting there, and why not show that content to more people? Because remember that LinkedIn's ultimate aim is to keep people on the platform longer so that they can show you more ads or get you to sign up to Sales Navigator or something like that. They want to keep the eyeballs on the platform, and so it's in their interest to promote interesting content.
Looking to mine, because since I'm also, very frequent user of the platform and I engage with people's content, I used to spend more time on longer posts. I used to read them, but the thing is that when I'm also, the same behavior applies to when I'm writing a post. If I feel that it's getting quite long, and I switch to my newsletter instead, and I said, this is a newsletter topic and I need to deep dive into it in a newsletter rather than a very long post. Do you see a behavior change in terms of the consumption of the content from people? I mean, are they still interested in the long form posts, not only the newsletter, long form posts, and they read it through till the end? What do you think?
I think maybe they're not necessarily reading it through to the end, but longer form content is often a signal of someone who is a domain expert. A lot of people can write short form content, but if you are going to go and write 10,000 words on a topic, you probably know that a lot better than someone who's brand new to the industry. So they are a strong signal of someone with real thought and expertise. So that in itself is of value. Remember that articles and newsletters are also indexed by Google, whereas only a small proportion of short form posts are indexed. So your long form thinking might be discovered by people outside of LinkedIn, so that gives it value as well. And if you're using a newsletter, then that means that people will receive notifications and even email notifications whenever you post something new. So more people will be seeing newsletter content than the old article content. LinkedIn, I think it was last year, increased the character count for short form posts from 1,300 characters to 3,000 characters. So you can write quite a lot of content in short form posts. A nice alternative to going from, should I go from a short form post to a newsletter, would be to turn that short form post into a document post. So that means creating a Word document or a PowerPoint that you export as a PDF, and that gives you a multi-page document that sits inside a short form post. It's a lot more engaging for the reader, and LinkedIn seems to promote that kind of content more than it does most other types of content. And I've found, because I keep quite detailed records of my data, that over the past 4 years, my document posts are my best performing short form posts. And they perform easily 2.5 times better than my image posts, for example, which is quite a significant difference. So that nice halfway house between a long short form post and an article or a newsletter could be to create a document post. And not many people use them. So, but they are effective. So perhaps give that a try.
By meaning from the document posts and the PDF format, is it like, the cursors that that you swipe to the right and left at the end of your post?
Yeah, that's right. You can either create a portrait document or a landscape document. And whenever you create the PDF and upload it on LinkedIn in a short form post, it will automatically add the controls for left and right to next page and previous. And you can maximize and you can download. So all of these things, LinkedIn is able to track the clicks of those as well. And it just makes for a more appealing type of content because you've got fewer words per page versus a really long wall of plain text. And I think that's a lot more engaging. So I'm a really big fan of document posts.
I tried it 2 years ago a few times. That there was only newsletters at that time, but I quit that. I think I will start doing that again after this recommendation, because newsletters take a lot of time sometimes, and it also has some not bugs but some glitches that sometimes you have to write them again. They don't recognize some of the things. So I will try the PDF document suggestion soon. My next question is about the company pages, because I prefer to read from people rather than, the company page. I generally don't even, bother to look at the company page input, and I don't see them actually. Probably they would like companies to give ads. What are your thoughts on this? I mean, like, what are some companies that does it well? I mean, do you have any maybe examples or like some mistakes that companies do in their company page?
Yeah, I mean, the thing you need to keep in mind is that for company page content to work, it needs to show a lot of personality. Normally, if it's just people reproducing the kind of content that would appear on their corporate website, it's going to be really, really boring. But if you look at a company such as Gong, Gong, for example, they write with a lot of personality. There's humor. You can tell that it's a talented group of writers who are putting this content together, and their content gets good visibility. I mean, in my case, I'm a one-person business, and I do have a company page because I think it's a good idea for everyone on LinkedIn actually to have a company page. But even there, even though people know it's me, because I'm just a one-person business, my company page will have around 2,000 followers, and yet my personal profile, which is the same person but with a photo of me, has 41,000 followers, and the content is pretty similar. So you're right that people want to engage with a person. So while there are good reasons to have a company page, you might get an extra Google index listing. It'll let you place some ads. You can display your logo at the top of your personal profile if you have a company page. There are good reasons to have the page. But if you're chasing engagement for your content, really, you're probably going to get best success by doing that through your personal profiles. And what I recommend, even to bigger businesses, yes, of course, you should have a company page, but actually the most effective thing to do is to get all of your people within the business to write their own posts and have some organic growth rather than trying to push everything through the logo, through the company page, because people might feel that that's very salesy or very boring or very corporate. And these days, I think people just want to interact with a human being, and that's why personal profiles are so successful.
What are some behaviors or some things or tactics that you think work on the platform? I know this is a general question.
I always tell people to be as personal as you can when you approach other people on LinkedIn. Think of LinkedIn as the same as a big networking room. If you wanted to connect with a person in a networking room, you would maybe approach them. You would say hello. You would try and start a conversation. You wouldn't try and sell them anything straight away. You wouldn't tell them how attractive they were straight away. Do you know what I mean? So it's relating it to the real world. So one of the bad practices, for example, is people try to connect with me, but they don't send me any kind of invitation note. They don't interact with my content in any way. Essentially, they are a stranger, and I don't know why I should let them into my network. It would be the same as going to someone at a networking event, giving them your business card, and then walking away without saying anything. You would never really do that in real life. So why would it be okay for you to do that on LinkedIn? Much better would be if I want to connect with you. Okay, I'm going to look at your profile. I'm going to see whether you've created any content. I'm going to follow that for a little while, understand what your style is, read your about statement. Maybe you tell me that you've lived in another country, or you tell me what languages you speak, or that you did some charity event last year. And I get to formulate a view of you that means that when I invite you to connect, I can say something to you that I wouldn't be able to say to anyone else because I know you well enough to understand what's interesting to you. I get your attention. We start talking to each other. I don't try to sell you anything. And maybe we just spend a few months getting to know each other. And eventually maybe I need a favor, or I need to refer you to someone, or you need to refer me to someone. And somewhere down the line, maybe some business will happen. So if you have this long-term approach, that's the most effective way. The problem is that many people say, I want to send 100 invitations a week, and I want to book 5 Zoom calls a day. And it's very fast, and people don't like that. It feels very salesy and very false. And that's not the good way to be on LinkedIn. I think it's just much more personal to have more conversations. That's the real secret to my success over the last 5 years or so, is have more conversations, more direct messages, more comments, voice notes, videos, non-salesy stuff. This is the stuff that really does work on LinkedIn.
Amazing. You have more than 42 even thousand followers right now. How do you handle, because I have 3,000 and I really try to pay attention who engages with me or who sends me an invitation, and it takes time. And then I wonder how can you handle that amount of followers, comments and engagement through your posts?
Well, yes, I'm fortunate to have lots of followers, but of course many of those people are just watching my content and they don't engage at all. And that's totally up to them. But if someone comments on one of my posts, then I will always give them a response. If someone sends me a direct message, I will always send them a response. And having that kind of inbound approach, someone is doing something and I'm going to respond to it. I don't have to interact with a huge number of people, nowhere close to 40,000 people, because not that many people interact. It is a lot of work. And I manage my notifications, for example. I do something that I think most people don't do, which is that as soon as I've dealt with a notification, I will delete that notification. Most people leave their notifications where they are, and then you end up having loads of things to scroll through, things you've already seen before. I treat my notifications like tasks. So as soon as I see, Ita has commented on my post, okay, I'll click that, I'll go and respond. Thank Ita for her contribution, ask a question maybe, and then I'll delete that notification because I've done that. And if she comes back to me, that's fine, we can keep going. But otherwise, that notification is dealt with and I can move on. And similarly, in my direct messages, I will filter and see only the unread messages. Those are the ones that I need to deal with. Everything else moves into my archive folder so that it's not taking up brain space. I know how many active conversations I've got. I know how many notifications I have to deal with. And I try my best to stay on top of it. And some days you can't because you're in meetings all day or whatever. But I do my best to do that, because the worst thing is to ignore people, because they'll be less likely to interact with you in the future. Several times I've left comments on other people's posts and then I don't get any kind of response at all. And as a busy person, I'm not going to spend more time interacting with them if they're not going to interact with me. So I need to do that with other people as well. Otherwise, they're just going to get bored and give up. So I think a lot of people who post content and then they don't engage in the comments, I think they're wasting their time, because you're not going to build a community or anyone who cares about you if you take that approach.
Exactly. I was using the notifications as, when I open it, it's now red, and I don't need to deal with it, but I will follow the delete advice, because it makes more sense. And I hope they bring up, as you said earlier in one of your posts, I hope they bring up the delete all, or like select and delete all option soon, for people that are using the platform frequently. I have two more questions left. One of them is the posting time and date. There are some, when you type for each platform, there are like some, Tuesday and Thursdays, 5 a.m. till 8 a.m. is good. There are like some industry standards. But I have some followers living in Shanghai, some followers in Europe, and some in US. Does it change per person? Is it a customized thing, or is there like a case that we need to follow here?
Okay, so a couple of things to say about this. When you post, you should do it at a time where you can be available to respond to the early comments on the post. So if you post last thing at night and then you go to bed, that's not a good idea, because you won't have had a chance to respond to the early people who are supporting your content. The reason that that's important is because I've done an experiment on this before, where I did for a whole month, I made posts and then I didn't respond for the first 3 hours deliberately. I did not respond to anyone. And in that month, my view counts dropped by 49%.
49, wow.
It's quite a lot. So what that told me is that if you don't respond to the comments you receive within the first few hours, your posts won't reach their full potential. So whenever you choose to post, you should make sure that you're around for at least a couple of hours afterwards so that you can reply to any comments that come in. That means, for me, it makes sense for me to post early to mid-morning, because I know that until about lunchtime I'm going to be around, and I know that I can respond. For everyone else, the other things to think about is, where is your audience based? If they're all in the same time zone, then it makes sense for you to try and post at a time that they would be likely to consume, which is usually, first thing in the morning, or maybe lunchtime, or maybe the commute on the way home. But if you're like me, and it sounds as though you are, you've got an audience around the world, it doesn't really matter, because one person's morning will be another person's nighttime, in which case, go back to what I said before, make sure you post at a time that's convenient for you and where you can respond to comments within the first few hours.
Does it matter also to engage with people before you post, like start engaging with people for an hour and then post and then be available for another few hours?
Yes, that's the smart way of doing it, because when you engage on someone else's post, so if I came along and commented on one of your posts, there's an increased chance that one of my posts will appear in your feed afterwards. And so if I do all of my engagement with other people first and then I post something, the chances of all of those people seeing my post has just gone up, and that means I'm more likely to get more comments overall. So the smart thing to do is engage with others first and then post your thing afterwards. And so that means if you're going to post in the morning, really the first thing you're going to do is look for other people's stuff that you can engage with. And this is also true for direct messages as well, because if we have a direct message exchange, also you're more likely to see my stuff in your feed. So if you're going to do any kind of catch-up one-to-one in direct messages, do that early on as well, and then post your stuff afterwards, and you'll see more people will start to see your stuff. And of course, even if they didn't see it organically, just the human psychology factor of, if I'm being nice to you and we're talking to each other and I'm helping you, you'll want to look for my stuff anyway. So keep in mind that, doing that engagement is really valuable for the algorithm, but also for your relationship status, if you like. So it's all good.
With the newsletters, I'm just keeping up and getting an experience about the newsletters. What I did as a mistake on the first few ones is that it takes a lot of time to produce it. So like 3 hours, 4 hours, I'm already off the platform.
Right.
And I post it and I'm already exhausted, and there's like, telephones are ringing, people need me, and I disappear. Because I'm wasted, creating that content. And afterwards I post it and I leave. And I recognize that it was a bad idea, because people would like to engage and people ask questions about the newsletter content and so on. Yeah, it's good to hear it from you too. So as a last thought, what do you think the platform will evolve, like the future of LinkedIn? Because I know that they are now in the audio space, just like all the other platforms, like Twitter is doing the same thing. YouTube is now into podcasting. Do you have any thoughts about the future of LinkedIn?
Yeah, well, LinkedIn themselves have said that social audio, which is what they're testing, and social video is what's coming next. So social video will be like an upgrade to LinkedIn Live video, where you can be on camera without needing any third-party software, but also people in the audience can be brought to the stage and you can have a live chat with them and then put them back in the audience. So that will be a much more interactive kind of thing. I'm really excited about social audio rolling out to everyone. It's still being tested at the moment. I think the real upgrade for that will be if they allow social audio to work in private groups and for companies. So if a company could say, we're having a meeting on social audio, everyone get in the room now, and only the company members can be there, that's powerful. And if groups, people who don't work for the same company, but they're united by the same interest, if they can have private audio rooms or private video rooms in the future, I think that also will be really very, very powerful. I've seen evidence in the last couple of days that LinkedIn will be rolling out soon auto captioning of videos, which is something I've been campaigning for a while. So I'm really happy to see that, because most video is played with the sound turned off, and most people don't still know how to turn captions on for their video content. It looks as though LinkedIn is now testing, finally, adding automatic captions on video content. So I think that's going to be coming soon. And also, if they're brave, they will reintroduce stories, similar to what you have on Instagram and other platforms, because I think the growing power of TikTok means that short form video is really the way forward. And I think LinkedIn will have to bring that back for the mobile app. So I expect, hopefully, to see that before the end of the year. Those are the main things I'm expecting to see.
Exciting, because if we think about the behavior, for example, for B2B companies or B2B creators, there is now a trend on TikTok that most of the B2B people are there. They are trying to create content over there. So why would you lose them to another platform rather than keeping them in your platform? That makes really sense. Although I was quite skeptical with the stories of LinkedIn. I never used it. I tried a few times, but let's hope that they bring it back.
Yeah, I think my overall thought really is that in the future, all the social media platforms will have all of the features. You'll be able to send a voice note, or send a video, or get into a private audio chat, or watch a story, or, you'll be able to do everything in all places. And the sooner that LinkedIn catches up with all the features, I think the better, because it is still the world's business platform. And so it's an immensely powerful space. So I can't wait to see what's coming next.
Perfect. Thank you so much for being on the show. So for those listeners that don't follow you yet, where can they reach out to you? Through LinkedIn or?
Yeah, LinkedIn and my website are the main places. So long as you can spell my surname Espirian, then you'll be able to find me. There aren't many of me around. I run my own community there called Espresso Plus through my website. So feel free to come and check that out. But I'm always interested in having a chat with human beings on LinkedIn. So if you want to connect with me, please say that you found me through the marketing meeting with Itter. and include the secret word that is hiding in my about statement as well. And I'd love to chat with you.
Thank you so much, John.
You're welcome. Thank you.